would have heard in the podcast that would probably get censored in the other media way.
Yeah, she's talking about news, but I don't think news gets censored anymore.
मुझे ड्रग्स दो वो कहती है मुझे ड्रग्स दो
Chad Arnab.
Is it?
मेरे लिए गांजा लाओ चरस लाओ MDMA लाओ एक्सक्यूसी लाओ अरे
Arnab doesn't get censored.
No, actually, it was in Having Said That show podcast. And Stewie came. That untriggered podcast.
This is what would Stewie do?
This is hookers and cocaine.
Turned her bro was so bad you turned her gay.
Where do you draw the line?
So you spit in it.
Whoa!
You guys have never done that?
I swear I was borderline GAY. I look there, this dude's like, is out and he's whacking his, because it's not going in his pants.
What?
And he's like, bad boy. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
Podcasts, the future of journalism.
Is it?
Is it not?
I mean, it's funny to hear all that. So I have two kinds of favorite podcasters. One is for like, getting some knowledge and becoming a knowledgeable person, and the other thing is just for, chill purposes, just for entertainment. So in educational, I would say definitely Nikhil Kamath. I don't know what it is in his podcast, but whenever I've seen his 3-hour podcast with influencers, and also when entrepreneurs came, the owner
Restaurant.
restaurant one as well, restaurant, yes. And also when Mama CEO Ghazal came. Yeah. I mean, the way he, first off, there are like clips being played at first as trailer. And then when he sets up a hook, okay, we will try to do something in this podcast that has not been talked before on the internet, something new. And then he brings in an interesting perspective. What would you say things in a way for making a 21 or 20-year-old person understand, and if they want to do. Although I know he says it's for educational purposes, but yeah, it must be helping with his distribution as well.
I'm sure it must be helping with his distribution as well, but I don't think distribution is the reason why he does podcast.
I agree.
I somewhere see it as an attempt to become like a thought leader.
Yeah, and also I remember, okay, so we were the winners of Masterclass of WTF and Nas Academy. So over there he has Bilal, who basically helps him with shoots. So he said he's naturally like that. He used to bring people over, invite them for dinner, and then he used to pit them against each other. That's what actually we are trying to achieve. We thought of this idea of how we can bring amateurs from different fields to talk about to the people who would be interesting, who wants to send their kids in that field, or people who are thinking to pursue.
So if any of you watching is interested in it and are like an amateur in a certain field and want to discuss that here, you're welcome to join us.
Yeah, we are, by the way, ex-journalism students.
I mean, we won't call ourselves ex-journalism students. We were journalism students. We are journalists now. We're not journalists. I mean, I'm working as a journalist.
I agree. I'm not continuing that
No, you
hardcore
are.
journalism.
You are making videos about topics that interest you, especially the kind of videos you make. That is journalism.
Yeah, only the thing I lack is I guess primary source of information. Whatever videos I make are mostly secondary source.
So we'll get primary source when we get to that level.
Yeah. We did it, by the way. One shot is about to come soon. I don't know. That's not a proper journalist content, but it's a fun content where we went to Lawan and tried quote Nikhil Kamath as a billionaire is for his weekend breakfast.
And another shot where we went to VB Bakery after that.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were comparing bakeries. That's not what journalists do though.
I mean, they do food journalists. Remember?
Fair, yeah.
There used to be a Zyka show on NDTV, if you have seen.
Not NDTV, but I've seen VLC a lot, and they had a lot of shows.
VLC. But that was NDTV is like a proper journalist.
VLC is also a journalistic company only.
Yeah.
Their modus operandi was journalism. Cultural and social journalism, yes, but journalism nonetheless. Lifestyle journalism. I guess VLC's name was also Lifestyle Channel something, no? V Lifestyle Channel, yeah, something like that. I'll check that out.
Would you consider Nat Geo as journalism?
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Because they were the few people who had access to recording technology back then, they had to be very hyper vigilant about the fact that they were sharing legitimate stories.
Yes, because so many eyeballs on them.
Yes. And now with the internet, because the eyeballs have distributed, because now Nikhil Kamath is literally competing with people like Untriggered Podcast.
Untriggered is way behind. They don't have.
They are competing though.
I would say they are competing more with Things Cool and all.
They are competing for my eyeballs there, right? There is a large scale competition where Arnab is competing with baby videos at this point. Baby
You know
shark,
what?
tuk, tuk,
We
tuk,
actually Googled this, not Googled, YouTube this, but we saw when S.J. Shankar came on podcast with Ranveer Alabadia and Raj Shamani, the views were way more compared to traditional news channels.
Yeah, like when it comes with a traditional news channel, obviously because S.J. Shankar is such a trending name, he does acquire a lot of views. As the finance minister,
Foreign minister.
as the foreign minister of India, please cut that out.
Yeah.
As the foreign minister of India, he does have a lot of people who look up to him, who want to watch his videos. And due to his presence on the internet, I would say that his name does gather a lot of eyeballs together. And even then, the traditional news journalism places could only get like 700 to 800,000 views, like 7 lakh to 8 lakh views. That is definitely more than their other views, which would go around like 100k to 200k. But that is nowhere close to Ranveer Alabadia's 8 million views.
Yeah, I agree. Even Raj Shamani's,
It was 2.4 million, yes. So it is a big difference. Like with Ranveer's podcast, it's a 10x difference. And a 10x difference matters a lot in today's world.
Right. And the fact that like now even creators have the access to ministers and
Not just ministers, I mean, our Prime Minister himself has recognized creators.
yes, now there is creator awards given to creators.
Yes. So we have entered a new era of journalism and media, I would say. Like look at Ravish Kumar's,
Channel.
or you can look at Saurabh Dwivedi's channel, which is Lalan Top. Lalan Top is a purely online news
I agree.
agency at this point.
The traditional news media is so boring now. Because I feel even they end up bringing people who are sometimes not even that relevant.
Maybe, but
And they just keep stretching.
that is because today's news agencies are also responding to what happened with news channels in the pandemic and before the pandemic, which was okay. News during that time was insane. From 2019 to 2022, news was on another level.
I agree.
With like the Aryan Khan thing, the Riya Chakravarti thing, the pandemic mass
But journalists
Virus.
were given like a special
privilege, yes.
Yes.
But then they were also talking about whatever they wanted. I saw so many times Aaj Tak and certain other news channels discuss aliens and stuff. I mean, aliens, they understood the game, I guess, by this point, where it's a game of eyeballs for them too. It's not about getting the actual story out. I guess the internet journalists are doing that more rigorously than the traditional media is.
their creators fail as well. Like creators won't go out there in the hospital asking people how's the situation or the labor migration that was happening in India during the time of pandemic. It was the journalists who were going out there.
Fair, yes, that I agree, but that is because they had permission. Content
agree.
creators didn't have permission. Our pandemics were carried by content creators. You can't say that content creators didn't play a role during the pandemic.
Yeah, I agree, they did.
And there were a lot of people who were discussing things not very newsworthy also, which was important during the pandemic because you were bombarded with so much information from throughout the world that
You need some
you
entertainment.
needed some time to relax, some time to get your mind off of all the death and destruction that was happening all around us.
So circling back to the previous question, who were my favorite podcasters? So yes, I said one for educational purpose. The other I would say give it to, Moments of Silence podcast. I love their podcast. They just rant about random thing ever. And it is just interesting to hear.
Yes, it's relatable like Generation Z talk. Like even I have a similar favorite podcast right now, So my favorite podcast right now in the non-information sector is definitely Untriggered Podcast, and it's because it's a bunch of boys who just show up and talk bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun. It's so relatable. They talk about their childhood stories, about playing cricket in the in their buildings, or about how they used to run up to drink cold water, and they discuss कि तेरे घर पे मटका था क्या? नहीं, मेरे घर पे कूलर था पानी का. हम लोग पूरा आइस डालते थे सीधा and stuff like that. And it's so relatable. It's so fresh. And I don't think that kind of content can ever be shared in like an explainer video or in a short format video. I think podcasts are the only way to do that. I mean, when I used to like AIB, the reason I used to like AIB was also the same. Like they had a podcast once where they were discussing about stories of them first time moving out. And that was when I was just going to join college. And that seemed so interesting to me because I could not relate, but I could see the future that I am definitely going to relate to these things. The first time living alone away from your parents, how you have to take care of all the responsibilities by yourself, how you are responsible for your own food, for your own sleep, for your own everything.
How did it relate to you? Like, how you could see yourself there, right out there?
Yeah, I mean like...
I'll be like, no, mama, I'm moving. You are not here.
Who doesn't want to move out? I mean, after you move out, it does hit that, okay, yeah, life is difficult. But when you're at your parents' house and growing older, you do want to move out. Independence is something people our age definitely want.
Yes.
And I guess that's what these people, that's why we connect to these podcasters, because they are young
Trying
people
to
themselves.
be independent, yes, of our age.
So yeah, this is the thing that got us into like...
Or maybe they have gotten independent and now they just share the experience, isn't it?
Yes, and that is what helps, right? That is what gives hope to the next generation. I mean, I guarantee these people, Untriggered with Amin Jazz and Moments of Silence, used to watch the AIB podcast when they were young.
Yes.
No, most definitely. Like, AIB was the thing in India. And okay, yeah, so now let's get to the big daddy of podcasts, Joe Rogan. How much Joe Rogan have you watched?
I've just seen his clip when he was with Elon Musk giving him a J. Yeah.
So Joe Rogan's podcast is the quintessential podcast, I would say. So much so that even people who don't watch his podcast like her have seen the clips.
Yes.
And I'm sure all of you all watching have seen him appear at least once on your feeds. Either talking to Elon Musk or talking to Bernie Sanders. I mean, he got Bernie Sanders on his podcast. That's pretty cool. And talking to a lot of people from American media and beyond. He gets people from all walks of life. Either they're wrestlers or conspiracy theorists. His best are his conspiracy theories. He like literally talks about aliens making the pyramids and like the buildings in Central America and stuff. And I know it's all not completely plausible, but the fact that they're so interested in those topics just gets you also hooked to those topics.
And also, like, I guess Joe Rogan's podcast are never ending.
Yeah, they're also as long as Nikhil Kamat's podcast. It's just that Nikhil Kamat has how many, like 25 episodes. Joe Rogan has 4,000 episodes. He is a person who will get people from all walks of life to increase his knowledge. And because he gets people from all walks of life, he gets to have discussions about everything. And even though he's not an expert about those things, he still holds opinions about them. And that shows that even if a person is not an expert on something, they do have opinions on certain things. And people like to voice their opinions out. They might be wrong, they'll get corrected for it. But the fact that podcasting culture exists actually bolsters my belief in the freedom of speech that exists in this world.
You know what I feel is when brands try to do podcasting, I'm not interested in it that much.
Yeah, because brands don't podcast. Brands get people together to promote the brand. There's a difference. In a podcast, there is the freedom of speech aspect that we've discussed till now. And brands silence that freedom of speech because you can't say anything that the brand doesn't align with, otherwise that brand's value is going to get hit.
Yeah. But like I'm seeing, brands also taking a very active role in podcasting, and I guess it's
Like
working.
OnePlus's
Yes.
collaboration with
Big
Varmaya.
Basket is also like Tanmay Bhatt is doing podcasting.
Or like there's this thing called Chalchitra Talks, and they have their longest interview ever, which is clearly an interview as they say, but it doesn't feel like an interview because it goes on for 2 hours and they're discussing everything from childhood to movies to whatever. It feels like a podcast, and yeah, that's also sponsored by Audible.
I agree. What the hell, Navya? Oh, Navya Naveli Nanda is also doing podcast.
I've
And
also done
that
podcasts
is-
before.
And that is also like sponsored by Tira.
So yeah, the pandemic has helped the podcasting business a lot, I would say. I think the pandemic is clearly what sealed the deal that transitioned the shift from TV to podcasts. But do you think people were watching TV all day long, or do you think people were choosing to browse the internet all day long?
I guess, but I would not all day, but I would definitely say during the time of pandemic, content creation was also on, like, it spiked, and also the shows that were shown previously to us, nostalgic shows, they also started re-airing, and people were watching it.
But that has collapsed after the
After
pandemic.
the pandemic, it collapsed, and
But the content creation kept on going up.
Yeah.
I mean, Nikhil Kamath started his content creation after the pandemic clearly ended.
Yeah,
And I mean, he's killing it.
definitely.
Watch our reel. I wanted to ask you guys whether you people watch podcast type content more, or do you watch explainer type content more? So in our case, there was a clear difference that we saw. Back before, during like our early days of YouTube, it was only explainer videos and stuff, and slowly podcasts have taken their position. But today, if you see, especially after the introduction of YouTube Shorts, I would say, podcasting content on our YouTube feeds has increased to such a big level that even though it doesn't beat explainer videos as a whole, as a category in and out of itself, podcasting is the biggest category that we watch.
I guess it is giving tough competition to explainer videos,
No.
vlog content.
See, explainer videos, vlog content are different things. And when you consider these things as different things, then I think podcasts come out on top.
Do they?
Yeah.
I guess it is still like competing with my eyeballs.
So I would love to know how you people are consuming content. Is it more podcast content or is it more explainer content? Also, one more point.
Or if you watch podcast, what kind of podcast do you watch?
Yes, definitely. Give us some recommendations.
Yes.
And also one more thing. So this is a very personal thing about the channel. Our channels performed better with podcasts than with explainer videos. So let us know what kind of videos you want us to make. Podcast type videos or explainer type videos. A clearer understanding will be much more beneficial for us.
I agree. See you guys in the next episode.
Thank you. Bye bye. And keep podcasting.
Bye.
It's in the non-information sector is definitely Untriggered podcast, and it's because it's a bunch of boys who just show up and talk bullshit. Podcasting culture exists, actually bolsters my belief in the freedom of speech that exists in this world.